I want to jump to Kit. Kit, who is calling in from New York. Kit, you have an interesting take from what my call screener says. You think that we should protect the idea that we should have free will at all costs, whether we have it or not. So I think that's an interesting take.
Yes.
Kit, tell me more about that.
Absolutely, I most certainly shall, my good Objectively Daniel.
All right. Very good, sir. Please.
I've got a lot of enthusiasm in me, buddy.
Yeah, no, I gotta pump up my game here too. My enthusiasm game.
Pump up your
Absolutely.
game. This is gonna be the sauce, Daniel. This is gonna be the sauce.
Okay. I'll be honest. I don't think anybody's called me Objectively Daniel, and it's really killing the vibe for me right now. That is like a weird.
I'm sorry. Hey, what? I'm telling you, I'm going to give you the philosophical free will sauce, and you can't drive yourself up, even though I'm calling you Objectively Dan.
Yes, man, how can I not be more turned on than a caller telling me about how free will is a necessity that we should be protecting at all costs? Yes, absolutely, Kit. I mean, I am just aroused.
Well, 100%. Don't tell me you're turned on. You're going to make me think you're hitting.
I didn't say. Well, turned on in the sense of excited is what I mean. You know,
I thought you were going to become the head guru of chesting in this. I'm like, now you're talking about turning people on.
I'm going to advise that you use your free will and I use my free will to continue on with this conversation. I think that's what I want to use.
You. No, I'm just kidding you. I had a little bit of a smoke of a rare plant that doesn't grow in this nation anymore for odd reasons. So I'm just a little, Anyway, but here's the thing. Our idea of free will should be protected at all costs because free will is connected to the idea of self-autonomy. And for example, like, how can someone decide to do anything or nothing, or how can someone say no or yes to anything if they don't have free will? Like, the yes implies will and the freedom of it, and the saying of the no implies will and not the lack of it. Like, no means no and yes means yes, and you can't, and then it's connected to the idea of self-autonomy. How it's connected to the idea of self-autonomy. Like, we don't have a will. Like, and the other point that I want to bring out in this is that if we didn't have free will, we would be a danger to society, because what would keep us from picking up a shovel and beating somebody in the head with it?
Yeah, so a couple thoughts on this, but I don't know, JL, do you want to start off this conversation?
Yeah,
I see you stroking that beard. And
yeah,
I think there's some wisdom in between those lips. So let's hear it.
So Kit, the big question that I have is that when you're talking about free will, so the ability to choose an action, or the ability to choose to commit an action without external impediment, which means that nothing pushing you or pulling you towards a particular direction. Now, my question is that when you say that we have free will, I want to ask you a question first to try and parse this out a little bit. And the question is,
absolutely,
when you make a decision, when you make a choice to do an action, is that action not informed by a great deal of prior past information in your life?
Absolutely. You got to say it. Nature and nurture. Nature
and
nurture. A little bit of
okay, so there's a great deal of prior information that affects the probability of whatever a particular choice might be. Now, you can choose to do as you want, and nobody's stopping you. There's no impediment. I could choose to do A, I could choose to do B, or I can choose to, in the morning, I could have an apple or an orange. But there's nothing dictating what it must be. But there is prior information. So there is a deterministic aspect to our choices. Okay, so that's why I'm on the fence when it comes to like free will. Like, do we have absolute free will? I'm not sure. I don't think so. Is it absolutely deterministic? I'm not sure. I don't think so. I'm kind of like in the Christopher Hitchens camp on that, where we have free will because we have no choice to, right? So kind of fall in that camp. So now that we have an idea as to like free will and determinism, so my curiosity is, these are concepts that we kind of apply in order to back up our personal autonomy. So how do you mean we want to protect it? Can you parse that out for us?
Definitely, I absolutely can. First, I'd like to say to Dan, is there anything on Warren's comment that you'd like to maybe jump in about before I kind of jump in? And
I have my thoughts, but you go ahead, Kit. Appreciate it though.
Okay. Yeah. Warren, Mr. Warren, sir. What I mean about guarding self-autonomy, I mean it especially in the legal realm. Because, for example, like obviously you know the turmoil that what we're going through with abortion laws and termination laws and rights and pro-choice rights in this country at the moment and in other countries. So, which we also need to be concerned about. We need to be, but that's neither here nor there. But like just in the courtrooms, for that reason, because if we don't have free will, the woman that wants to get the abortion, well, we need to protect the life of the womb, the life inside the womb, or the fetus inside the womb. You don't have any free will, so we'll just come in and say that life needs to be protected more than yours.
Okay, so what I'm gathering, what I'm gathering is that it's not so. Yeah, what I'm gathering is that it's not so much about free will; it's about personal autonomy. Is that you believe that we need better laws on the books at both probably a federal and a state level to protect the personal autonomy of the individuals in this nation, correct?
Yes. Like, for example, like if I was to take it out even slightly further, I would say that it's not so much, and I think I went a little overboard in my stating that, like, I think you guys maybe perceive that I think we have free will. I think the idea and concept of free will from a neurological perspective, like I've heard Shannon Q say the science is pretty much out that we don't, but from a neurological perspective, even I think I could argue that we do, but like that's neither here nor there at the moment, maybe for another later show or something. But like just from a legal and philosophical perspective, that it needs to be protected. Like, I'm not sure if we have libertarian free will, probably not, but do we have some free will to a degree? Maybe so, but I don't think that matters literally, but more philosophically, ethically, and morally, and in business as it comes to ethics and morals.
Yeah. So I get what you're saying here, kids. Free will, as most people understand it, is actually really most people don't understand it, is the problem. I think people have a very different idea from what free will means when philosophers talk about free will, right? So figuring out what free will even actually is actually a problem within philosophy itself. There's actually multiple competing different ideas about what free will even actually is. And even if it's a coherent concept, I'm not even in the camp of believing that free will is even a coherent concept. But what you've mentioned is something that a lot of people have talked about. So the implication of our legal system, right, is that you had the choice to do something else, but you chose to do the thing that was against the law. And so therefore we are punishing you for doing this, right? If a computer commits a crime, we wouldn't put it in jail because it's not going to do anything for it, right? There's no punishment to be had. There's no being that's, suffering because of it, I guess, right? Or is at least going to change their minds if you believe in a rehabilitative idea of justice, which a lot of people in the United States don't, but a lot of countries do, right? So that sort of legal process isn't actually going to make or change things. The thing is, though, even if free will doesn't exist, which I happen to believe in most identifications of that term, it doesn't. The legal system is still a threat to me, right? Because I could go to jail for doing things, and that threat is making me decide not to do the thing, right? So, we could just all be computers, but computers take inputs and do outputs with that. My input is I don't want to go to jail, so I'm not going to do the illegal thing. And that's enough for a lot of people, honestly. The morality of the thing really.
Hello?
And I think that's what makes our legal system as compelling as it is, and I say compelling, I mean as dire, because the consequences of doing that action is going to be really bad compared to a lot of other countries even. But that's neither here nor there. The point is, I can still follow the law and still uphold a sense of right and wrong and some justification, and still choose to do things even if I don't believe in free will, because I think that's how my biological system is reacting to my environment.
Right. I will say I did seem to make, in the long and short things, I did make my argument for the idea and concept that we do in fact have free will. And I'm sorry if that threw you gentlemen off.
No, I get it. No, I totally get what you're saying, Kit. You're saying even if free will doesn't exist for legal purposes, it has to exist in order for prevention purposes, or for in order for our system to even make sense, it has to exist, because otherwise, as you put it, people would be murdering people. But again, if free will could not exist right now, and people are still going to go to jail or going to avoid going to jail by avoiding doing crimes, right? Like I don't think that has to be a necessity in order for the system to do what it needs to do.
I don't 100% agree, Objectively Dan. 100% agree.
Yeah.
There's no difference there. Hey, you think for the most intensive part when it comes to free will, personally, that it doesn't matter. We don't have it, and it doesn't matter either way. And I agree with you there on both points. And you agree with me when I say yes, but on the books it must, and in the courts we must act as though we do. And in society we should act pleasant with each other, and we need to continue delving in deeps on the subject of why some people act so rudely with one another, I think, and why some people really can't act right within the realm of regular society.
Yeah. Okay. So here's where I think what I'm saying might not be catch what you're saying. You summarized pretty much everything so far, except for one part here, which is, again, I don't think the legal system can work. I think the legal system can still work as intended without a concept of free will. And why I think that is because
I heard that. I heard
okay.
Objectively Dan.
Well, but you're saying you don't think it can, though, right? Like you're saying we have to have that concept.
I think the law can, but it's because that I believe that we have a certain degree of free will. I would say somehow in the mix, in our thinker-mabobbers, and somehow with the way the chemicals go to our blood, in our thinker-mabobbers, in our craniums called a skull, and somehow with the chemicals that go to our blood pump that make us feel feelings, like somehow the concept of free will works in and says, I'm in a prison cell because I killed someone. Maybe this ain't so great anymore. I mean, Jeffrey Dahmer said he found Christ and repented. But, who knows? Did he really feel remorse? Like, if he did, gee whiz, why do it in the first place? That begs the question.
But okay. Even if, let's say that's true, though, right? I'm sorry to interrupt you here, Kit, but let's say that's true. Let's say that Jeffrey Dahmer, first of all, I don't think the American prison system is helpful for most of the people that are in it, by and large. But let's say we do live in a world where it does, okay? And let's say it's supposed to be working that way. That's just one a biological system. That's what people are. We're biological systems going into an environment and getting inputs from that environment and changing from that environment, right? And becoming something else, right? Your PlayStation can play Fortnite and it can also play Forza because it's got different things put into it, but it's still the same PlayStation. There's no free will that's involved in that, but it could still do different things because different things are being put into it. There's no need for free will in any of this. There's a lot of people like even you just said earlier, Kid, like, people would be murdering in the streets if they thought free will wasn't a thing. But I just don't think that's true. I think that these causal inputs are going to be affecting us regardless.
I can't remember if I said people would just be murdering in the streets or how I framed that. But if I've said those exact words, I apologize. That's not my thoughts. Like,
gotcha.
you have to ask, why are people murdering in the streets? Like, if we just say no one has free will and they're a sociopath, like, to a certain degree, I would say, like, even I could prove maybe from a neurological, with the complexity of our central nervous system and how that works.
Yeah.
And I'd like to talk to Shannon Q maybe one day when she's on the show. But, like,
if you want my perspective, then I want JL to chime in here. But yeah, if you want my perspective, Kit, yeah, I do think some people are just some people are born sociopaths and psychopaths. And first of all, not all psychopaths commit crimes, right? A lot of psychopaths live in society and deal with the cards that they're dealt with, right? And just live their lives. But yeah, I do think your biology may make you, like, just like how some people are going to be more easily influenced by alcohol, right? And have trouble maintaining a healthy relationship with that. There are some people that are going to have unhealthy relationships with particular criminal behaviors that are going to, affect them. And that sucks because our system is not kind towards those people.
No.
Even though they need help more than anybody else in dealing with that, right? Because if you're born a psychopath, if you have psychopathy, there's no cure for that. You get aid and you manage that. But just like any other kind of mental illness, right? You have to just deal with it. It's not just like a thing that goes away. We can't just pretend like these people don't exist, because they do. But anyway.
Oh, I don't pretend like they don't exist.
Yeah.
I think they need help. And I think we can discover, I think the reason for psychopathy and sociopathy is hormonal more than just anything else in the body. I think they get a whiff of someone's pheromones and they want to go crazy and fall violent. But here's
I'm not. I'm not.
I don't want.
I don't know.
There's a lot of definitely look into it. Definitely do more research into this. And I would say,
I'm doing a lot. That's just my opinion.
There's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of reasons why people do the various things that they do, and a lot of the tragedies that occur between people. If we're specifically talking about murder, then I mean, there's a million different ways to individuals justify their actions, whether it's in the moment or whether it's accidental or whether it was intentional. Yeah, but it all comes down to how they justify it. Now, the system to go back to kind of like the center of the call, the system that we currently have in place is predicated on people having free will. Because if everything was determined, if this was a deterministic, absolutely deterministic universe, we don't currently have a way to like know that. Is like, how could what methodology could we use to figure out that, yes, everything is just determined. Everything you do is already been planned and is already going to happen. So if somebody commits a violent act, they were always going to commit that violent act. So there's no way for us to determine that. So you can get into the question of whether or not we could blame them for an action that they were predetermined to do, but because we can't determine that, because we don't have access to that, we have to act like everyone has free will and the ability to choose. Now, we understand that a lot of preconditions or mitigating circumstances go into, or extenuating circumstances go into, why a person justifies a particular action. And so our criminal system is predicated upon the consequences of the action. You commit an action, there are consequences, and based upon the severity of the consequences, that is what the punishment is meted out to you. Now, I agree with Dan wholeheartedly that the prison system that we have in the United States is focused more on recidivism than it is on rehabilitation, which is something that seriously needs to be overhauled. But I don't think when it comes to your call, I don't think when it comes to the nature of, when it comes to the subject of your call, I don't think we can operate any other way. Like, the system that we have must start with people have the ability to choose. So there's no real legislation that we could put on the books that could secure that, because we can't determine that it's any other way other than what we currently perceive. So there's nothing we can do to protect it. All we can do is pass more legislation to ensure that people's rights, their ability to choose, is not constricted in any way, or is not curtailed in enormous ways. So like I said before at the beginning, we need better legislation to protect autonomy and not so much free will, because free will gets a little complicated, but personal autonomy, I think pretty much people generally understand that. So I agree with you on that. that we do need better legislation to protect personal autonomy. Bringing the free will argument into it makes it a little bit murkier, and it's going to like throw things off. But given that, we can't really act in a different way. So what are you proposing in that sense, that just that we need better laws to protect personal autonomy? Is that where your kind of mind is at?
Yes. I'm proposing exactly what you're proposing, because I'd
Okay.
like to hit on a big point that you just made. You said free will, protecting laws and making laws that protect free will get a little murky. And why is that? Because if someone has a will to murder, well, guess what? We can't punish them for it, because that's just in their nature, and that's just their free will about it, and they don't have another way to choose, so we can't do anything about it. So where are we going to put them now? What are we going to do to them? Do the death penalty? I think that was ancient, that we should do and done away with that a long time ago. But, I agree in protecting self-autonomy and the right to choose, because if we teach people the right choices to make, maybe they won't make the wrong choice, like murder people or treat people impolitely. Informed decision.
Yeah.
That goes into a bigger topic, into our infrastructure and ensuring that we have money going into the areas that we need it to go into, and not paying for things that we don't need. I firmly believe that mental health in this nation needs a huge boost. There's a number of things: education, mental health, hospital resources, so many things, prison reform. But yeah, I agree with you on that. I absolutely do. That we need laws, better laws, to protect people, protect people's ability to choose what to do, especially when it comes to their own bodies or their own lives. So we do need that. How those would be articulated is for politicians to hash out. I am not a politician, or a legislator. So that's for someone else to hash out. But I agree with you on that we do need that to protect people, and better systems to support the individuals who are unable to make more positive choices.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, sir, Mr. Warren, sir. If I was talking over you, there was a little bit lag on my end, so I do apologize for that. But
not a problem.
You are a very intelligent gentleman. You are a very intelligent, brilliant gentleman. And if you ever sought a career in constitutional law, I think you would probably, or politics, I think you would probably go very extremely far. And probably you as well, Objectively Dan. You'd be like the funny politician that everyone made fun of, but kind of agreed with.
Could you see Dan and I on the city council?
Ooh, the
could
Dan
you see it was like,
Warren ticket.
Could you imagine?
Yeah.
Okay, that's just beyond weird, because my father's name is Dan. So
oh no.
So, but I was just like, now I'm thinking about it, you just see us at the city council meeting, just back and forth, just
yeah. I'll tell you what, Kit, I appreciate the compliment. I'm not sure how much of that is affected by the previously mentioned substance that shall not be named or not, but I'll take the compliment nonetheless. And
yes,
I think we'll go ahead and end things here, because we do got some other calls we want to talk to you, but very polite and very nice conversation. I truly enjoyed that. Kit, thank you so much for calling in.